Why doesn't anyone live in Montana? Now, first things first, it's not accurate to say that people don't like living in Montana. A bunch do. Many people are attracted to Montana's natural beauty, outdoor recreation, and a much slower pace of life. Like, it's really slow here. If New York City's lifestyle is fast like a jet fighter, Montana's lifestyle is fast like your grandma in a walker with bunions on a cobblestone road. If you don't know, Montana is a state located in the western region of the USA, known for its stunning natural beauty, vast wilderness, and rugged terrain. Despite its scenic landscapes, Montana has one of the lowest populations in the country. They have just over 1 million subscribers, ranking them 43rd out of 50. Their population density is ranked 48th. They only have 7 people per square mile. There are many reasons for this, ranging from geographical, economic, and social factors. In this video, we'll outline the 10 reasons why Montana has such a low population. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, geographical isolation. So this one showed up when we did this same video for Wyoming and Alaska. They're kind of far away from any major cities. I mean, it's one thing if you're a city away from other major cities, that's different. This is a whole state that really doesn't have any major metro areas around them. Now, this creates a few different problems, and one of the biggest ones is bringing in big industries that hire a lot of people. Montana has seen some small tech startups move there, especially in the Billings area in the recent years, but they haven't had a big boom there. If you know anything about Montana, most of the people are perfectly fine with that. In my opinion, Montana's like one of those places you shouldn't touch, sort of like the national parks. There's rules against setting up big hotels and things like that on the property. They want to keep it in its pristine condition. Well, Montana's kind of the same way. It'd be nice if we just left it alone. But it's not just the businesses. The isolation makes it difficult for people to access the state and its resources, making it less attractive to possible future residents. Number 9, a harsh climate. Yeah, Montana gets a little rough when it comes to the weather. Montana is sort of known for its extreme weather conditions, with cold winters and really hot summers. The state's harsh climate makes it challenging for people to live and work there, which can deter people from actually calling it home. Talked about this when we were talking about Wyoming, that in the early days when people were settling in different areas, these states that had harsher climates and rough terrain were kind of just overlooked, or they just passed them by when they were heading out west. They got to Oregon, Washington, or California, even Utah, and the land and the weather was a little more hospitable, and they chose those places over Montana and Wyoming. Now, yes, that was a long time ago, but that slowed the growth of the state. Number 8, limited job opportunities. Montana has a relatively small economy with few job opportunities. If you're looking for a job outside of fast food and retail, you're probably going to have to look in forestry, mining, and different farming, like agricultural things. Become a ranch hand, clean out the stalls, and shower weekly. Number 7, limited access to healthcare. Montana's a big state. It's actually the 4th largest state in the country, and they have few medical facilities that are available, especially when you look at the rural areas. This limited access to healthcare can make it difficult for people to receive medical treatment when they need it, which of course makes the state less attractive, especially towards older people or anyone with a chronic health issue. A lot of people never put that together. It's hard to move to a rural area when you have some kind of medical condition that requires monthly treatment. You got to drive 5 hours to get to a hospital to sit in some kind of machine. I mean, sitting in the machine for an hour sucks. What happens if you got to drive 4 hours, 5 hours to get to that machine? Now, their healthcare isn't bad. Their healthcare professionals do a fine job. But when they rate a state or a city's healthcare, accessibility is one of the main things they factor in. And Montana has far too much land and far too few clinics and hospitals. Number 6, lack of diversity. This is one of the things that always gets brought up on these surveys, and it also gets the most comments. Now, why would lack of diversity stop someone from moving to an area? Well, there's a few different reasons. One I always bring up is the food. I like to try different foods, and if let's say you don't have a strong Hispanic community, fact is you're not going to find any great mom and pop taco places. Same goes for pho or whatever you're looking for. Now, that's just from my point of view. The other point of view is Sometimes when people move to a new place, they want to see at least some people that are like them. This gives you people that you have more in common with. Doesn't mean you want to exclude yourself from the typical community they have there, but Montana is a predominantly white population with a lack of diversity in terms of race and culture. Number 5, rural lifestyle. Montana is rural, with small towns and isolated communities scattered throughout the state. This rural lifestyle can make it challenging for people to access resources and services that they may have taken for granted when they live in some urban area. Montana has some cities, but they're not really big cities. Billings is their largest city, and it only has about 115,000 residents, followed by Missoula, which has less than 75,000. Great Falls has about 60,000, and Bozeman has just a little over 50,000. Just kind of put that in perspective if you're not from this country. One of the U.S.'s largest cities is Los Angeles, and they have a population of just about 4 million residents. And if you look at the entire metro area, it's closer to 13 million. So yeah, Montana doesn't really have a lot to offer when you're looking for cities, but they do have a lot of small rural towns. And if this is something you could live with, it's a great place to call home, but it turns a lot of people off. Number 4, limited entertainment and cultural venues. As we just learned, Montana doesn't have a lot of big cities. Big cities come with some negatives, but they also come with some really cool things like a lot of places to see concerts, museums, theaters. They don't have much of that here, and it's just because they've got a small population. If you're one of these people that enjoys stuff like that, Montana might be a hard pass for you. I mean, I'm not a big museum fan, and I don't really care about concert halls or anything like that. I like a good amusement park, and I sometimes like to go to bars that don't play country music in a heavy rotation. But if that's your thing, do it. There's just a lot of people in surveys said that that was one thing that bothered them about Montana. Now, if you're bored, watch the comments of this video. It's a whole bunch of people from Montana that are saying things like, well, we got to build more museums in if it's keeping them away. Number 3, a high cost of living. Montana has a relatively high cost of living compared to other states in this region. The high cost of living can make it difficult for people to afford Montana, especially for those with lower incomes. Now, there's some states that break the standard rule. When you're not on the east or west coast, you should be cheaper. Montana is a little bit cheaper than, let's say, California and New York, but not much. It's not Mississippi or Arkansas cheap or even Missouri cheap. One thing I do like about Montana is when you buy property, it's probably going to be a little more expensive than you'd assume it was going to be, but most of their property comes with like an acre or half an acre or something like that. So if you want to get a good sized lot, Montana's probably a good choice. But a lot of people say that the high cost of living really turned them off about Montana. The cost of living in Montana is normally around 6% above the national average. Is that the worst? Absolutely not. Is it terribly expensive in Montana? Not really. But compared to the other states in the immediate area, yeah, it's a little expensive. Number 2, limited educational opportunities. Montana doesn't have a whole bunch of giant universities like a lot of other states do. They have limited access to higher education. This limited access to education can make it less attractive to young people looking for opportunities to advance their careers or pursue higher education. In other states, they have some really big, really good universities. Not saying there's anything wrong with Montana's. Their problem is they don't have enough. But a lot of times when kids go to a university, they stay in that area. I would say about half the people I know that moved out of state from my hometown didn't really come home after college and move to a new state. They basically never came home from college. Whatever state they went to, they stayed there. No, a handful in Arizona, a couple in the Boston area, whole bunch up here in Oregon, and a few others scattered around the country. Universities do play a big part in growing a population, both in short term and long term. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There's a link for that down below. We'd love it if you went over there and subscribe. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, public perception. Montana doesn't have the greatest reputation. It's not a bad reputation. They just have this reputation of being kind of vacant, sparsely populated, isolated. And this makes it less attractive to people like we talked about earlier that are coming from cities or more populated states. Now, a lot of people love that about places like Alaska, Montana, Wyoming, but more people would prefer to be around a city. So in conclusion, there are many reasons why Montana has a really low population. They range from geographical, economic factors, social, and cultural factors. Now, there's nothing really wrong with Montana. It just breaks down to Mother Nature, and it's not everyone's cup of tea, I guess. All right, everyone, have a great day and be nice to each other.